Good evening and welcome along to Close Calls on the 42 in association with Air Sport. My name is Paul Dollery. He's Ben Blake and we are here, as you can see from our very beautifully decorated scale back Close Calls studio. We're here in Copenhagen ahead of tomorrow night's crucial World Cup playoff. Ireland taking on Denmark here in the Danish capital in the first leg in the bid to qualify for next summer's tournament in Russia. Ben, this is the draw we wanted. We all wanted Denmark. We didn't want Italy, Switzerland or Croatia. Surely it's just a matter of turning up tomorrow night and getting the job done quite easily.
That's it. We've talked about it for long enough now. As we saw yesterday, Croatia were definitely not the draw to get. They put 4 past Greece. They look like they're already 1 foot in the finals. Switzerland were certainly no mugs. Got a win against Northern Ireland, albeit through a very controversial penalty. But yeah, Denmark look like the team that we most likely can beat. So let's go and just do it now.
Yeah, as always on Close Calls, we're looking ahead to the big sporting event of the weekend, and there's no doubt what that is over the next couple of days. It's the big one here tomorrow night, as we mentioned. And we have got a pair of tickets with thanks to Carlsberg to give away to the second leg in Dublin on Tuesday night. And if you want to win those, make sure you just leave a comment on the video below here and leave us your prediction. And if you happen to be correct with that one, you could be heading along to the second leg in Dublin on Tuesday. Now, Ben, we were at the pre-match press conference and stuff today at the Park and Stadium. Not a whole lot really came out from either camp, but I suppose the positive from an Ireland point of view is that it looks like Jeff Hendrick and Stephen Ward, who were injury concerns during the week, it looks like they're going to be okay for tomorrow night.
Yeah, both missed out early on in the week. Jeff Hendrick had we were told, a glute problem, and Stephen Ward was resting his knee. It didn't sound as serious, but both trained fully yesterday and there were no setbacks, and both of them were involved in the full session this afternoon. So by all means, I think they're fit to play, and barring, I suppose, the obvious people who weren't involved in the squad due to injuries, then he's a full squad to pick from. Yeah, we'll chat about the potential Ireland lineup a little bit later on. Obviously, great to see Jeff Hendrick has put that glute problem behind him. But we'll hear now from Martin O'Neill some of what he had to say at today's press conference.
Martin, you were a coach of Niklas Bendtner when you were in Sunderland. What can you tell us about that time with him back then?
With Niklas? Well, very interesting. As only Niklas can be. Yeah, when I got, he was on loan from Arsenal, and obviously good footballer, really good player. And when he set his mind to it, he was excellent. He had to set his mind to it, though. But he's... He did it often enough for us during the course of that time, absolutely, you know. And I remember one game in particular. I think it might have been against Liverpool, where he was unplayable. He played really well. Got us the 3 points and was really excellent. Overall, really fine. Stopped the side from being relegated. Played a big part in that, and did really well.
Yeah, that was Ireland manager Martin O'Neill speaking today at the press conference about, obviously, Denmark striker Niklas Bendtner. Ben, we're assuming Bendtner he's certainly not going to start tomorrow night, and he may not even be involved over the course of the tie at all. But I suppose enigmatic is probably the word you'd use to describe Bendtner. He's shown over the course of his career, in brief glimpses, kind of flashes of brilliance, but has never really kind of fulfilled his potential. He's obviously at Rosenborg now, having been at the likes of Arsenal, Juventus, Wolfsburg. What do we have to say about a guy like him?
Like you said, enigmatic is probably the word to use. He's kind of in the Mario Balotelli mould, in that a player that for a long time people expected a lot and kind of hoped for a lot, and in the same way, a player that probably speaks about himself more highly than most other people do. He's certainly not shy of confidence, and if he is brought on off the bench, he's certainly got the quality. He could possibly get a goal here and there, but yeah, like you said, he's not the main man by any means these days for Denmark.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier on, we have a pair of tickets to give away to the second leg in Dublin on Tuesday night. All you've got to do to be in with a chance of winning them, with thanks to Carlsberg, is send in your predictions and just comment below the video. And if you get the prediction right for tomorrow night's first leg, you could be heading along to the Aviva on Tuesday to see Ireland hopefully qualifying for next summer's World Cup in Russia. We've had a few predictions in already. Hank Scorpio reckons we're going to be looking at a 0-0 away leg. Dublin game, we'll have a 4th minute penalty and 86 minutes spent defending and hoofing the ball away. That'll do us. Liam Walsh reckons Ireland have scored away from home regularly enough, so he's going with a score draw 1-1, then we nick a 1-0 win in the home leg. Come on, you boys in green. Ben Symes thinks it'll be 1-1 tomorrow night. Ireland to score early on and try to hold out, but end up conceding around the 60th or 70th minute and then holding on for the draw. Richie Huggard, and I tend to agree with you, Richie, because I'm a pessimist myself. He's going for Denmark to win 2-1. Damien Sinnott thinks Ireland are going to win 1-0 thanks to Daryl Murphy. And the debater reckons it's going to be an Ireland victory by 115 to 9 points, and we'll take that one as well. Now, Ben, from a team point of view for Ireland, obviously David Meyler, the stand-in captain for the last couple of games, is a massive loss due to suspension. He'll be back on Tuesday night. But is that the only change we're going to see? We assume Glenn Whelan's going to come in there. What do we reckon for the Ireland lineup tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's funny that you say, like, such a player who was a squad player. He wasn't necessarily a starter for such a long time. In the last 2 games, he's kind of stepped up, taken the captain's armband, and probably become a really important player. He will be a loss, and plenty of people will be probably cursing our luck that Glenn Whelan is coming in. But look, he's done a job for us before, and he's the best we have in that position right now. So he'll almost certainly come in. The goalkeeper and back four probably picked themselves at this stage, especially he's not going to change it just for the sake of it in a World Cup playoff. So it'll be probably Meyler coming in alongside Harry Arter, who had a good game against Wales. He was hard working, tenacious, got around the pitch and was obviously involved in the goal with that step over. Those 2 lads will be the deep line midfielders. Ahead of those, most likely will be a 3 behind a lone striker, which is what O'Neill has gone with often in recent times. So James McLean is probably our talisman at the moment. You could call him that, considering the important goals he scored in qualifying. Robbie Brady, who was up alongside Martin today, will be likely to play, and Jeff Hendrick, who's shaken off that injury, will probably make up that trio. So in the striker's role then, is it Daryl Murphy? I'd probably say yes. He's favoured to get it. He played there the last 2 games, and although he got the 2 goals against Moldova, although he didn't have huge luck in Cardiff, he still put in a shift. And Shane Long's kind of goal drought hasn't ended yet. He's still without a goal since February for club or country. So I think I'd most likely go with Murphy, especially. Not that Sean Maguire was likely to start, but the fact that he's not around kind of makes it more favourable for Murphy.
Yeah, no, you've been looking at the potential Danish lineup as well. They've had a new manager come in ahead of this campaign, and it's not quite as easy to predict. They've had a lot of changes, not just in terms of personnel, but in terms of their systems and formations as well. What are we likely to expect from them?
Yeah, they even through this campaign they've changed the system. They began it with a 3 at the back and a 3-5-2, but in recent months when they've had most success, they've played a 4-3-3 with 2 hard-working midfielders, William Kvist and Thomas Delaney, kind of sitting more so, with Christian Eriksen given plenty of licence to get forward. Then you'll go with 2 wingmen and a man up top. It just depends on the personnel, I suppose.
Yeah, you mentioned Christian Eriksen there. Obviously, everybody knows that he's the main threat to Ireland tomorrow night. He's been in fantastic form for Tottenham. Probably doesn't get the credit he deserves in terms of being up there with the world-class players. Maybe he needs to go to a big tournament, and maybe he needs to win something big with Tottenham for that to happen. But he's certainly a major threat to Ireland tomorrow night, as I said, and we actually heard from him earlier on today. He spoke about the possibility of Ireland doing a man-marking job on him tomorrow night.
Yes, I have been man-marked a few times in my career so far. I don't know if Ireland will do it. Yeah, like I've been asked before, I don't really mind if they do it. Then there's probably more space for some other players, and the players we have and the quality we have, I think we could take advantage of that. But again, it's an Ireland decision, and for me, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that was Denmark's playmaker Christian Eriksen speaking at the pre-match press conference at the Parkin Stadium earlier on today. Ben, as we said, he's the main danger to Ireland tomorrow night, but you've been looking at some of the other Danish players who might be a big threat to us as well.
Yeah, as I mentioned there, Thomas Delaney, he's not an attacking player by nature, but he does score goals. He got a hat-trick against Armenia in the recent qualifiers. He kind of gets into the box at times. I was also looking at they've got a really top level defender, Andreas Christensen, who strangely enough may not start. He's playing at Chelsea after 2 seasons on loan at Borussia Mönchengladbach. He had an excellent game against Manchester United in the win last weekend, and he's probably going to be left out with Denmark going instead with Bjaaland, who plays for Brentford, another centre half who he's favoured alongside captain Simon Kerr. So it looks like they've got talent at their disposal, and they don't even necessarily have to use it, you know.
Yeah, keep your predictions on tomorrow night's game coming into us, because if you get the score right, you could be heading along to the second leg in Dublin on Tuesday night. You could win a pair of tickets with courtesy of Carlsberg, so keep your comments coming in on the predictions for that. We've got a few more here. John Carroll is watching from Ruislip, home of the GAA in London, know it well myself, and he reckons Denmark are going to be beaten 2-1 tomorrow night. We'd settle for that, absolutely. John Giles, I'm assuming not the John Giles, says it's going to be 1-1. Damien Cash, 0-0, get up Borat, says Damien. And Noel Cullen says keep Eriksen out, 1-0 to the boys in green. And Kevin Doyle, I'm assuming also not the Kevin Doyle that played for Ireland. For some unknown reason, I'm feeling confident. Denmark 1, Ireland 2. The Danes to go 1 up in the first half, but we come out strong, get 1 back, and then sneak a second in injury time. A lot of optimism about the Ireland fans there from what we're seeing so far. Ben, I know it's a big deal for you as well to be in the same country as your fashion icon, the man you base your look on, Thomas Gravesen.
Yeah, and also the home of Tuborg, a fine beer.
Absolutely, yeah, and certainly costs a pretty penny over here. Thomas Gravesen, I mean, a fine player back in his day with Everton, Celtic, and of course Real Madrid. Apparently, quite interestingly, now he's obviously retired a good while, but he's living in Las Vegas, having invested in an online gaming company. Is from what we hear, worth 80 million at this stage out in Vegas. So he's living the life out there. And listening to Off the Ball during the week with Kevin Kilban, who obviously played alongside Gravesen at Everton, he recalled a time when Gravesen, who was apparently quite a character, arrived at the Everton training ground and started launching fireworks at some of his teammates on the training ground. So that's the kind of guy he was. But speaking of potential hard men, and Gravesen was probably falsely known as a hard man during his playing career, but Ireland's kind of tough tackling approach has left us going into the game tomorrow night with 10 players on yellow cards, which is I know Roy Keane tried to play it down during the week and said, it shouldn't affect a player's approach to a game, but if you got 10 players potentially missing out in the second leg by picking up a booking tomorrow night, that's surely going to be playing on the minds of some of the lads.
Yeah, you're undoubtedly kind of walking a bit of a tightrope. It's been talked about throughout the week, as you said. Roy mentioned it. He said the players shouldn't be thinking about it and just kind of going out there, because if you're going out there and you've got it in your head that you can't go into a full-blooded tackle, then you're not going to be playing to the best of your ability. With 10, the likelihood is we could easily pick up a suspension or 2 for the return leg in Dublin, but there's nothing really you can do about it except kind of get on with the game, is there?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Now, yesterday in Dublin, our man Gavin Casey went along and he caught up with the legendary former Denmark and Manchester United goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel. His son Kasper will obviously be in goal tomorrow night for Denmark, but here's what Peter had to say on tomorrow night's game.
We've seen many teams in the world that's got 1 or 2 players. We've seen Montenegro, their best 2 players, when they were playing, they beat everybody, right? They beat us in Copenhagen. And then one of them got injured, and the other one in the second game we played got injured as well. And then suddenly Montenegro was very ordinary. Now with Ireland, it's a team. You've got so many players, and the players that play within a system that they're used to from their clubs. It's not like they have to change a lot. So the confidence going into the game is high. You know, they're not. I mean, I have experiences from when I played for Denmark, where I would play one kind of football playing for Manchester United. I'd come back, and it was a different kind of football we played with Denmark. And I had to change my way of playing. I had to change my expectations to the players that were playing immediately in front of me, of their capabilities and what they could do in the game and what I could ask them to do. So certain things I needed to adjust all the time. And I think that went for everyone. With Ireland's team, they play as close as they do in their clubs. And I don't want to use the word old-fashioned, but it's a very traditional way of playing. And sometimes that's much easier when you're being drawn in from everywhere to play 2 games in 10 days. It's much easier to sort of play more traditional, keep it more simple, because the more people in the 11 that understands that, the better the team will perform. So you might not have, you know, the Christian Eriksen or the Zlatan, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't know. I have no rational answer other than an emotional one for my heart, and I hope that Denmark will be.
Yeah, that was the former Denmark goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel giving his verdict on tomorrow night's game. A legendary keeper, Ben, with Manchester United back in the 90s. The best keeper in the world back in the day, do you reckon?
Back in the day, undoubtedly, yeah. I know now a lot of people would say Buffon, just because longevity, I suppose, he's been around, but like you think of an iconic goalkeeper for our generation anyway, like growing up, he was definitely the one.
Yeah, no, we got into Copenhagen yesterday. Haven't had much of a chance to get out and about just yet because the weather here has been typically kind of Irish, so it's been a bit too rainy for us to go out and explore, but there are a lot of Irish fans in town. We've seen a few around, and I know they've been out enjoying themselves, and we're expecting, from what people have been saying, around 8,000 Irish fans in here, but the ticket allocation is only 2,500, and I know the Danish Association have been putting out messages all week saying that Ireland fans, if they do manage to get into the Danish section of the ground, they need to keep a low profile, and if they do have tickets, that they might not even be allowed in. So it could be interesting on that front, but I'm sure the Irish fans are going to get in somehow anyway, Ben.
Yeah, when it comes to Ireland fan, where there's a will, there's a way. You do often hear this about kind of away allocation, and if you get in, you might cause trouble. But at the same time, you very rarely hear anything being done about it. But we've kind of heard a couple of stories in the last few days of fans like getting tickets taken off them and stuff because, like the DBU said, like if you're in the home section, you won't be allowed to be there. So it's just a case of, if you get your hands on tickets, I suppose, kind of keep quiet and sit in your hands when Ireland score that winning goal. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, the Parkin Stadium, it holds 38,000. It's a pretty small allocation that Ireland have got, although the record attendance for the Park Stadium was 20 years ago, and it was for a Michael Jackson concert. 60,000 people were in there, so yeah, there's a bit of useless trivia for you, but we're going to wrap things up now. Going to look for a prediction from you, Ben. What kind of game are we going to expect tomorrow night? What's the result going to be? Is it going to be a thriller or is it going to be bad?
Is it ever a thriller in Ireland are involved? Look, I think it will be probably a nervy enough game, but I'm going to go all out and say that we're nick a 1-0 win away from home and go back there and grind out a draw, I suppose, at home and go through.
Yeah, that'll certainly do us anyway tomorrow night. Come on, you boys in green. This has been Close Calls in association with Air Sport. Thanks for watching, and we'll chat to you again soon.